Hey guys, my name is Fabian Centeno. Today we are doing another Tomorrow's Creators podcast, and I am joined today by the one and only Lenise Morales. Say hi, Lenise.
Hi.
Lenise is here. She is probably the best looking person so far and probably ever going to be on the podcast. And I say that because, not just because, I feel like it's the truth, but you are my girlfriend. Is that correct to say?
Yes.
Yeah. Stick to the script. Yes, so she's my girlfriend of a year. We've known each other for a long time. She is a music inspiring artist within the music realm of entertainment. And if you guys don't know already, Tomorrow's Creators, what it's really for is for those people who are kind of in the middle of their process of trying to make it to the industry. And in this case, it's entertainment. And there might be podcasts that go off of other things, but this one's strictly entertainment. And Lenise is in that field with music. What's some instruments you kind of messed around with?
Piano, guitar, and ukulele are the instruments that I'm currently songwriting with.
And your voice.
And my voice is the main thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I've had the pleasure of even seeing Lenise grow in all those things. And seeing you kind of grow into that and kind of find your voice and find who you are in that. But tell me, I went on a little bit just to talk about, Tomorrow's Creators and blah, blah, blah. And a lot of people, you've probably heard the podcast with Josh and Andrew. And if you haven't, please look back at those. Those are great podcasts. Lenise is our first female on the podcast, which is great. There's going to be more in the future. I'm excited for that. But again, let's go back. Who are you? I have a little introduction, but who are you? Where did you come from? I know you're from Philadelphia. I'm glad you're here in California visiting me. Mm-hmm. But, if someone would say, who are you, what would you say?
So, again, I'm Lenise. I'm 20 years old. I'm an aspiring singer-songwriter from Philadelphia. I'm also a full-time undergrad student.
Student.
I'm a student. I promise I'm smart. I'm earning my bachelor's in entrepreneurship. And so that's kind of what I'm doing full-time right now. Also a worship leader back home. But yeah.
You kind of did all, and you just got done track.
Just got done my last season of track and field. So yeah,
so
was a captain for that.
And you're still a captain.
And I'm still a captain, but
coach,
more like a assistant coach now. Yeah.
Which is awesome. You do it all, which I love.
Yeah, do it all.
And I think that can be difficult. Because for me, what I always encourage people is to focus, and I've said the same thing to you. But I'm like, you got to focus on what you want to do. For me, if I'm a film, and not to say you shouldn't have like extracurricular activities, but in college when you do track, it's a little different ball game. Like it's a lot of time, and right?
It's like a part-time job.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm like, get a part-time job instead.
Yeah.
Unless you get paid to run track, that'd be great. But you don't. It's kind of like just sucking stuff.
Well, I'm not going to the Olympics. Thank you.
Yes.
I'm not going to the Olympics or anything. So.
Yeah. So it's like, man, I think. It was very much a booster for you because I know you're good at it. But I feel like you're good at anything, and you would be if you get on it. And I remember people saying the same thing about me. It's encouraging, I guess, to say you're good at everything, and everything you put your hands to, you're great at. But at the end of the day, we don't want to be a jack of all trades. We want to be a master of one. And so focusing on that and seeing where that takes us. But that's who you are. You're kind of this small town girl or big city girl. Coming into a bigger city, hopefully. And then, so talk to me. I know just some of the things that you've been through as far as music, but I think people want to know, how did you get into it? When you were very young, and I don't know if that's something you wanted to do at a younger age, or is that kind of something that kind of caught you off guard? And like, I'm really good at this, might as well do it.
Yeah. So I think songwriting specifically started for me when I was 10 years old. Around the time when I began watching movies like Camp Rock on Disney and everything. And my favorite character was a singer-songwriter. So from there, I've always loved music and I've always loved performing. Actually, at the time, my parents had me in dance classes, which is kind of ironic because I'm a horrible dancer now. But anyway, because I wasn't good at that, I figured I would try songwriting. I got put in guitar lessons because I figured I didn't want to just be a singer. I wanted to be able to be a musician and have like these different skills within the music industry. And it was very natural for me. Like there wasn't like this big aha moment. Like I knew I was good at it when I started, just because it came so naturally, and I was able to like tell stories through it. And music just always worked for me. I got up in talent shows during grade school and kind of performed, and always had good feedback. So I kind of knew it was just the right fit.
Yeah, and I think that's good. I think people like it's not rocket science a lot of times. Like, what am I supposed to do? I'm like, and I don't know if you've even had that. That's probably the best thing. I've never had to like kind of point you in a direction growing up, even as friends. Because I was like, I think you know what you have to do because you're just doing good at it. And that was the same for me. Like when I was in film, I asked God. I was like, hey God, what do you want me to do? And he was just telling me like, well, practically, what are you doing good in, and what are you finding a lot of favor in? Like what's pushing you forward and what's opening doors for you. And I was like, well, film. And he's like, well, stick with film. Same with you. The doors are opening. People are giving you great feedback. You're doing great. Things are opening. Doors are opening. And even more now. And I think, and that's a big thing. So that's to say, it's not rocket science. I mean, sometimes it is. It's not always black and white. Like, it's so easy to, and people might be good at great things, but it's like, what are you seeing the most movement in? Because I'd feel like you could go after that.
Yeah, and I feel like also with music, I'm thinking, what's the like realm that I'm most myself?
Yeah.
That I'm the most honest and authentic the whole time. Like I feel like it's kind of weird. You feel like don't hear this really in the industry, especially in Hollywood, where people naturally you'll hear that people are selling themselves. I don't feel like with music I have to.
Right.
I feel like my talent kind of and just the way that I present myself already does that for me, that I'm never trying to overcompensate. So yeah, it was just like the most natural for me.
Good. Yeah, what's natural? Yeah, that's good. And even me, like with film, it's like I can communicate. I mean, I think you know this. Like, and I don't say this to brag. I just say it like this is what people said. It's like the feedback thing. It's like my feedback from other people is like, hey man, you tell great stories, and I'm like, thanks. Like even just vocally, I can tell good stories and exaggerate them a little bit. But what's not a good story without a little exaggeration? And so I'm like, if I can do that even vocally, because some people are like, I'm such a bad communicator. So, but the greatest way I can communicate is through this. So they have different outlets. I'm like, I'm a good communicator from what I've heard, and I just want to make I just want it to translate even better on film. So that's cool. It's just natural. That's awesome. I love it. And then I think coming from that, what's your goal? What's your dream? I mean, I'm out here in California. You're back in Philly. But I know California is kind of on your heart. What does that look like? Not transition-wise, but just like, is California part of the dream and just moving around? Or what does that look like?
Yeah, California is my dream home. It's been since I was really little. But ultimately, my goal is to kind of just move out to LA and then get a Grammy in the next couple of years. I'm coming out with an EP soon, so that's a start, just getting content out there. One of my favorite artists, John Mayer, I was kind of reading on some of his advice for young songwriters, and his was like, don't worry about being perfect, just get content out there. A lot of times in the industry, people are looking for consistent before they're looking for perfect. And so that's kind of what I'm doing, just putting stuff out there and then seeing what happens with that. But yeah, for sure, a Grammy, touring, more albums, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's good because you see Vine stars, right? Like, and we talked about this. Like Vine, not everyone was that great, but a lot of people posted like all the time. So it was like it was always in your face, and then you saw them develop, and a lot of them were good. They weren't, and some were really really good. But you'll watch some of their videos, and I'm sure these guys cringe like at their 6 seconds of like singing. They're like, so pitchy there, so this there, so that there.
Yeah. But we like it because we see where they came from.
But we like it because we don't know any better, too.
Yeah, we don't know any better.
and even if we did, we still appreciate it, and we know we hear the potential. It's all there. Like Shawn Mendes, he had some
Yeah.
stuff. I mean, he was always really good, and he maybe had some pitchy stuff here and there, but overall, he had a great
We didn't
voice.
know. We were just like, wow, this Canadian can sing.
But
yeah.
even if he was pitchy, it was like, we're look at him go. And it wasn't like it was so horrible, like he was like, you know, his voice was cracking. It was like, okay, it's a little pitchy, but everything else was great. But anyway, he probably cringed, but look where he's at now, and it's straight off a Vine, 6 seconds. He was so consistent, and he was always doing something. And so, I mean, that's the same for you. I remember telling you that, like, hey, just post. You don't worry about having the best camera and the best lighting and the best microphone. Like, that's all going to come later. And the thing is, when you have all that in the beginning, you don't appreciate it later down the road. Because where you came from is so important. It's like, man, I started out with a little microphone and some lights in some studio from a church doing a podcast with random people I know. And then now later on, who knows? But the humble beginnings is what makes the end so great. It's like, it's not because I came from something great. It's because I came from something small. And so I like stories. I like little, you know, everyone likes the underdog stories. And so it's like, don't force yourself to get one, but it's okay if you're there because you're like everyone else. So at the end of the day, when you make it, when I make it, whoever makes it, even on this podcast, we have even this moment to capture what we've been talking about. What's our heart? If our dream's still the same? If it changes? If it alters? So I think that's why this is important, and it's important to have you. So it's exciting stuff. So I mean, one of the big things I want to talk to you about, and I think people here that I've talked to who are singer-songwriters or whatever, I have a hard time with because we're kind of around the Christian realm, a lot of, you know, with churches and stuff like that, and they're kind of in between this, like, man, I really want to express myself and, you know, even relationship stuff, but I don't feel like that's really Christian. And then they're like, but I'm a worship leader and I want to have a worship album and yada yada. And it's so funny that we're still asking these questions.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, there's a lot of people who are doing both. So,
yeah.
I mean, you probably can give language to a lot of people who are struggling with that. So talk to me about what it is to have that, and like if you went through that and what that process looked like.
Yeah. Well, first I'll go into why secular music, like why is that something that I'm interested in. Growing up, I know I had, like, as we all have eventually, like a little rough patch where like we're going through like some tough stuff, or specifically for me it was like more closely to just exhaustion and being depressed and just a lot of striving, and kind of where I came out of that place was through music. And luckily for me, growing up a Christian, I knew like, okay, I can turn to worship music. But as I get older, I'm starting to think about what about the teenage girl who didn't grow up in the church, and naturally she's going to tune to like artists she just knows, quote unquote, the secular artist. She's not going to go to a worship song because she doesn't know any better. So how can I do the same thing those worship songs did for me, for people who aren't going to go to a worship, who don't have a worship playlist, who don't have a prayer closet playlist. And so that's kind of like where I kind of just see why I want to pursue secular music instead of just worship leading, which I love to do, and I'll totally do it until I can't anymore. But
you want to fill in the gap. You want to meet people in that place.
Music is just awesome because it always meets people where they're at. And when I'm listening to a song, whatever genre, I don't have my guards up because it almost seems silly to do that. Either way, it's music, and whether I like it or not, there's something I appreciate about just how I can listen to any song. It doesn't matter what race I am, what gender I am, whatever, I'm going to get something. It's going to tell me a story. And so anyway, as a Christian and specifically as a worship leader, and trying to find balance between being that and then being a secular artist, I kind of see as a worship leader, my job is to usher people into something, and I'm doing that as a secular artist. I'm just using a different language, and I'm being a little bit more, like I'm not coming out saying Jesus or God in all my songs, and that's okay. That's not because I'm not ashamed. Like if you ask me about how I came about writing the song, I'm going to be honest if it's about Jesus or God. But I just think in terms of the language, like I want to be considerate of the other person, of the person on the other side who doesn't have church background, or who does have a church background but maybe was hurt by the church or this and that. So their ideas of God and church are a little just messed up or disoriented just where they're at, for understandable reasons too. And so I just want to be considerate of them and not just speak from where I'm comfortable. And same way with like love languages, they tell us we don't love people out of our love language. We should love them the way that they want to be loved. And that's just the most efficient way for me to go about it.
That's good because it's almost so separate. It doesn't have to be is what you're doing. It's like, hey, I'm being both. Like, I want to be relatable. And, you know, and I tell people all the time with, you know, the Christians have their own language. Like, if some people walked by us and we're like, yeah, like, dude, the Holy Spirit burned my soul last night. They're like, who burned your soul? Why are you still alive? You know, and so for us, it's like, oh my gosh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
And then for other people, they're like, no. And it's like a cult, but it's the opposite. And so it's just weird for them. And it's like, how can I speak your language? Because it's almost ignorant if I don't. And where I'm over here and I'm not going to almost cater to you because you're not here. And it's like, man, I need you to kind of, you know, I'm feeling this type of way. I don't know what I'm feeling. You're like, no, I know how you're feeling because I felt the same way. And I'm going to meet you in between. And that kind of is God, right?
Yeah.
Like Jesus does that. He meets us in that in-between place. So he's not waiting for us to love this. Like, we're not loving worship songs and then it's like we get whatever. It's like, no, we're going to draw you there. And even if you don't, like, I love that you're being in that space. And even me, like, I can even do that with film. Like, I'm not this exaggerated, blowing up all this stuff. I'm telling a story. It might not, you know, for me, it's show, not tell. I'm not going to tell you, like, this is, like, a God story or whatever, but I'm going to show you it is. And with your music, it's the same thing. I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to sing it to you. And so, yeah, I think you're meeting people where they're at, and it's a beautiful thing. And it's not a struggle, right? And I think, what do we call that in the industry? Like, what kind of artist is that, do you think?
That's a kingdom.
A kingdom artist,
yeah.
So, like, being a kingdom artist, because that's what we're called to, right? Not a Christian artist. It's like kingdom, like, we're pointing them to a certain place. I'm kind of a different breed, right? And I guess you could say that about Christians, but it's just a bad rep almost sometimes. And it's not like we have to redeem it even. It's just like, let me do what you actually are is kingdom, and kingdom looks a different way, and it looks special, and I think you're doing it well. And I hear it through your music. Everyone does, because, you know, even the things you write, even in your relationship songs, it's pure. You know, it's not like raunchy. It's like, man, this is such a good, healthy relationship in just this song and in this context.
Yeah.
And so that's been good. What is the process for you when writing songs? Because I know a lot of songwriters want to write, and they're like, where do I start? I don't know. It's so hard. And then you're really good, and we'll show some stuff for you guys in the beginning of this video or at the end. I don't know which one, but we'll show you guys that, and you can follow her at Lenise,
Well, we'll have it in the video somewhere or in something.
Yeah. So, but what are the process and what would you encourage people beginning that?
Yeah. So when I'm going about writing a song, there's not really a formula that I have for it. It kind of just happens where I kind of feel like this itch, like just that I want to say something, or sometimes it's like I experience something and I really have to like tell the story. And for me, the best way that I communicate is on paper. A lot better than just speaking out loud and from my head. So a lot of times for me, it's really weird. The music comes first before the words, which is just because for me, especially because I'm a lot more, especially as an artist, I'm a lot more emotional, or at least I wear my heart on my sleeve. So it's a lot easier for me to communicate an emotion instead of a lot of other things. So I'll kind of either go to the piano or the guitar. Those are mostly what I write on. Ukulele is kind of just, if I get lucky, I'll come up with something there. But yeah, I just go sit down and I'll come up with like a melody, and then from there I'll separately write, okay, these are things I want to communicate in this song, or this is what I'm hoping this song will do. One of those things, and I kind of just build from there. A lot of times it's easiest for me to come up with verses because they're very descriptive, and a lot of times they're more accurate to what exactly like happen, and then the chorus I kind of try to make more general, so almost like an anthem every time, like a lot of people can relate to it instead of just me. I go from there, and yeah, something happens, the magic happens at some point in the room, and I get lucky, or it doesn't, and it's okay, and I just put it on the shelf and
Revisit
move on
it?
from there.
Or just
Revisit
leave
it later. No, I try to revisit, if I'm going through like a mind blank or something, but I don't like to get frustrated at my songs. Like,
Yeah.
I don't like to sit there for hours and be like, oh, I can't finish. It's like once I start getting a little antsy, I put it away.
Yeah, don't force it, right?
Yeah, I don't want to force it. Just because as a Kingdom artist, you have to be so intentional. I'm not just writing stuff. But sometimes also it's songs, I get requests for like topics to write about. Like, at my school, there was this one organization specifically for mental illness and more for the eating disorders. And so a girl who was a friend of mine, she had graduated, but she came up to me and was like, hey, this is the situation with some of our girls. We would love to give them like an anthem. And for me, that was like a little weird at first, but honestly, it was one of the easiest songs I wrote. It took about 15 minutes to write, and I do have a recording of that. So maybe we'll show that in the clip, a professional one.
Yes, so maybe later if we don't have it by then.
Maybe later. So my school is actually using it for music videos. It would be super cool.
Awesome.
But it was called Growth, and I just wrote it almost as if I was the girl with the eating disorder, and I like came alive because now I can really understand, like, as much as I could for not being them, but like what it's like to go through that, and kind of also, since I'm looking from the outside in, kind of speak hope into that situation.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, because it's like, I think what you're touching on even is like, man, there's such there's so much room to do, to write about, right? Like, it doesn't have to always be about relationship. It doesn't always have to be about even God. It doesn't have to be, like, it can be about people who are fighting with these things, and these struggles, and I want to give life to them, and they have a chance to grow out of the situation, whatever the, song means. And I know you did stuff for the Paris attacks a couple of years ago. Like, wow, it's great. Like, when you see a problem, when you see something that is a struggle, let's write about it and bring light to it. So, and to not even just expose it, but to say, like, there's different ways we can even contribute to help it. And film is a powerful way of doing that as well. But even songs, And so that's what you've done, and I'm like, dang, that's awesome. You're not limited, and no one told you are. No one's telling you you are, and they're sitting there with a pencil and paper, and they're like, I don't know what to write. Like, is it because is it the little, or is it because there's so much? And it should be there's so much, but it's better to have more than less, and then you take from all that so much. And so it's funny because the same with film. Like, I ask people, like, what are some of your ideas? And they'll give me the most, like, they just took a scene from High School Musical and then put it with, like, Die Hard, and then took, like, It and put it in one. You're like, how does this even work?
Yeah.
And I know these movies, it's like, and not to say there's, you have to be super, super, super original, crazy, deep, like, physiological. Thank you. You're in college. No,
I'm in college.
So, like, they don't have to be all that in order to be a good story or whatever. But can you give me something? Like, there's these stories that can be, like, and I'm not bragging. I'm just saying I've always thought there's so much out there, and there's so much that I can pick from.
Yeah.
I'm not limited. And so people I see in songs and in different things, I'm like, you're limiting yourself to, like, these little things, these little stories, and these easy songs to write. And then when you want to talk about these other things, that's when stuff starts getting real.
Yeah. And I also want to write about stuff that people are actually going through.
Right.
And also things that people aren't really talking about. So even with the Paris bombings, that was a real situation, like, and there have been other places that have experienced, like, attacks and stuff, but I don't hear songs about it.
Right.
And not that we have to write a song every time something bad happens, but for me, I know that how powerful music is in those moments, and there are songs where, like, people talk about hope, and, like, they like blow up on the internet and stuff because it's so valuable to the people going through those situations, and even those of us watching it on the news. But also, like, I could write a ton of love songs. For sure, they're fun, and I like them for sure. But other than my song California about being in long distance, there's not going to be, like, a ton of stuff yet that are going to be most authentic to me, or even the people in school with me, that in ways that they can relate, because that's kind of the audience that I'm around right
And you
now.
haven't seen, and this is the close off, I think for you, it's like you haven't really seen a lot of stuff that's been affecting even your life and propelling you to your future is songs, not of love songs and not like your Christian songs. It's your songs of like these things that happen and that you're bringing hope to. So I love that. And so that's just stuff to think about, guys, and just to expand your horizon and just some advice of what it looks like in songwriting, and some advice as far as like if you're struggling in that in-between place already as a, maybe secular, do your own music, and then, a Christian artist. And even if you're just secular, like, hey, not just, and you think it's just love songs and crazy songs, like, no, you have these moments too. So it's really for everyone what she's talking about, which I love, and it's so great. It's so good. Even for me, we wrote some songs together. Because for Mother's Day, so we've never been limited. I don't think it's just so it's been good. We're talking from an important place. But this is Lenise Morales. Go follow her on Instagram and whatever else we put up there. Check out the video of her. She's awesome. She's been just killing it, and we're excited for her to come out again to California. Yeah. She is leaving today. She was here for a week. We did a lot of fun stuff together. It's great having you. Thanks for coming on. So guys, we do have a Patreon account, and if you guys heard from the other videos and kind of skipped it, well, here's another chance for you to hear about the Patreon account. And it's basically if you guys think this is valuable and you love the podcast and you want to support Lenise and you want to support what we're doing here and support other artists, we would love to have our own studio. We would love to have different things to give you guys. We love giveaways, all these different things. We have great ideas, and you contributing would be a huge help. So a Patreon account, it's linked to us, Tomorrow's Creators. Nothing's coming to me. It's all going to the artists. It's all coming to the equipment to have this place look great and to get you guys on platforms and get you more podcasts during the week. Right now, it's just going to be once every 2 weeks or even once a week. So we want to have more for you guys, and that's one way that you can see that when you're giving towards this podcast, that's some of the things you're going to see. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Say bye to Lenise.
Bye.
Or you say bye to them as well. We will see you next time for the next podcast. And I don't know if did I tell you what we do at the end of our podcast?
Nope.
We go, bye. So we'll say bye.
Bye.